Hello, super quick intro. Today I'm going to be showing you the solution for the Hanayama Rotor puzzle, which means I'm going to show you a solution that goes from the very start position that you can see on the box to a completely separated rotor puzzle, and then the opposite. We're going to show you a way of going from the completely separated position back to that original starting position. Now this is a very hard puzzle to solve. It's going to be hard to follow the solution that you're about to see as well. However, the hardest part for you is going to be identifying where you currently are in your rotor puzzle and then trying to navigate yourself onto the path that you're about to see. So if we are starting at point A and heading to point B, we have a route through. But the chances are you're not already on that route. With the amount of possibilities and variations in positions that you can be in with the rotor puzzle, the chances are you're somewhere else on the map and you're going to have to navigate your way onto the route or to point A or point B, whichever is the easiest, whichever is the shortest, or probably whichever just luckily you happen to stumble across. Having said that, let's crack on with that solution. Okay, so here we have a rotor puzzle in its original position, and the way you know it's in its original position is because the two pieces or the two corners of each piece that has the circle with the line going through the middle of it, they should be completely opposite each other. You should have the silver rotor engraving here, the gold rotor engraving here, and the silver puzzle should be sat in the gold puzzle in this position here. So if you are in that position, what we are going to do as we are going through this to make it easier for you to follow along is I'm going to be keeping the gold piece completely still the whole time. So this top right hand corner is always going to have the rotor engraving in gold here and the circle with the line straight through the middle in this part here. And what we're going to be doing so that it's easier to follow along is that just moving the silver piece around the gold piece. Okay, so there's three different types of moves that we're going to be doing. The first of which is just the simplest that you can do, the simplest of the three moves, and we're going to be going clockwise around the gold piece with the silver piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over this corner here of the gold piece, and then we're going to come on this corner up here into this position. We're then going to continue that move, but this time the silver piece is going to drop down below the gold piece and then come back up through this gap in the top left into this position here. So that's the first kind of move. The second kind of move is when this silver gap is going to go over this groove in the axis of the gold piece. So when you're in the right position, that should just nice and smoothly slide over into there. What we're then going to do is we're going to go anti-clockwise with the silver piece. So we're going to drop down through this gap up here, and we're going to re-emerge through this gap here and into this position here. Here, now we do the third type of move, which is probably the most complicated and the hardest to find first time around. But you may have noticed that of the three axes of each part, or of the gold piece and the silver piece, there is one that is very, very slightly thinner than the other two. And what that allows us to do when we're in this specific position is actually cross over those axes. So we could go from here to here with the silver piece, and we could go from down here to up here with the silver piece, with the silver axis over here. What we're going to do, so we are in this position before this move, we're just going to be crossing this axis with the silver piece. So we end up over here at the end of that move. Once you've got that position, we're then going to be moving clockwise around the gold piece with the silver piece. So we're going to come over the gold engraving with the silver piece and back on in this corner down here. And we're then going to do that move again. So we're going to come down this time with the silver piece and then up into this corner up here. We're then going to repeat going over the gold cross, or the groove in the gold piece in here. So that silver piece, this one tends to need a little bit more force more often, but again, if you do get it in the right position, it should just slide over quite simply like it did there. Next, we are going to go anti-clockwise with the silver piece. So we come over that top corner and we come back on this corner in here. The next move, we get a little bit more complicated because so far the silver piece has mostly been below the gold piece. But now what we're going to do is we're going to use this groove in the silver piece to come through the gap in that gold piece and up into this position here. Now the good news is we've just got 3 clockwise movements of the silver piece to go, and then we can separate these 2 pieces. So the first clockwise move, we're going to come off this corner down here and on this corner up here into this position. And next we're going to be dropping down with the silver piece. So we're going to come up through this corner, or this corner of the gold piece here. And then the engraving, the rotor engraving on the silver piece is going to slide right by the gold engraving, or the rotor engraving on the gold piece into this position here. And the final clockwise move is we come over this corner here, we come on this corner here, and we've now got all the grooves lined up as they need to be to now separate this puzzle. So we simply slide them across each other, and then here we can separate 3 ways. We can come off that top bit, we can come off the bottom bit, or we can come straight through the middle into that position to separate the rotor puzzle. And for putting the rotor puzzle back to its original position, the original position being the key word there, it's very easy to put it back together in some fashion, but getting it back to that original position that you can see on the box is difficult. It's essentially a reversal of what we've just done. Now first of all, we need to get the orientation right, so we're going to do exactly the same thing. The gold piece is going to stay in this position with the circle and the straight line in here. The rotor engraving is in here, and the gold piece isn't going to move at all. We're going to just be moving the silver piece around the gold piece. So to start with, there's only one way to go on and then across each other, but to look at it from this position, you want the side that has the Hanayama engraving down here, you want the groove in the silver piece here, and then we turn it towards us into this position, and we can then connect those 2, slide over those gaps, and then we can start the reassembly from here. So doing exactly the opposite of what we did to take it apart, the first things we do is 3 anti-clockwise moves. So there's 1 there. The second one is a little bit trickier because the silver piece is coming up, and as long as you've got the rotor engraving on the silver piece coming up, then you know you're in the right position. So that's the second anti-clockwise move done, and then the third, we come around this corner and onto this corner down here. And when it's lined up, this is one of those, there we go, and we end up in this position here. Now it's going to get a little bit easier from here because now we're going to use this groove in the silver piece to slide through this gap in the gold piece, which means the silver piece is going to be a little bit easier for us to hold and move as we are going around. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go clockwise around with the silver piece into this position here, and then we're going to sort of continue that move by going across with this gap, which is the gap that has the engravings or the cut out pieces. We're going to use that to go over the groove in the axis of the gold piece and into this position here. Next, we are going to come anti-clockwise with the silver piece. So we're coming down here and up into this gap. And then we're doing another anti-clockwise move again. So we're coming off this corner on the left and then over the top of the gold rotor engraving into this position here. In this position is where we reverse that special move. So here we can cross over the axis of the gold piece and the silver piece, but we just want to cross the axis of the gold piece so that we end up in this position here. And I'll leave it here just so you can make a note and get to this position first, because that is probably the hardest move to track as we're going through this. And from here, we're then going to go clockwise around the puzzle like it really wants to. So we're going to drop through there and come up onto this corner here. and without letting it drop back through. Then we're going to use the silver gap to go over the gold groove in there, and again, when you're in the right position, there shouldn't be any force required to do that move. And from here we've got 2 simple clockwise moves to do, and then we are done. So what we're doing is we're coming down with the silver piece in here and up with the silver piece into this position. In there, so there we go. And then the final clockwise twist, we come off that corner onto this corner. And when you're in this position, you should have those circles with the lines through it on the opposite pieces in line with each other. The silver rotor engraving here, the gold rotor engraving here, and the silver piece in this position relative to the gold piece. So there it is. That is how you disassemble and then reassemble the rotor puzzle. Or that's a way of doing it. There is other ways. But as I said at the start of the video, the hard part for you is identifying where you currently are and then getting onto the route that you've just seen. And then being able to follow that path. Following the path is hard enough, but getting to the path is going to be probably the most challenging part of this solution. So hopefully this has helped you solve the rotor puzzle for yourself. If you do need any help or have any questions about the rotor puzzle, comment below and I will do my very best to help you. It'll probably be hard to help, but I will do my best. And if you want to see me struggle through the rotor puzzle or any of these other Hanayama puzzles for the first time, and then the step-by-step solutions to all the other ones, then be sure to click my face here to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Peace!